business tax?
One of the things we found from those hearings was that it's manufacturers done very well under the new Michigan business tax. And that's primarily because, of course, they have a lot of personal property. Personal property certainly is a disincentive to invest in this state, but we have what's called a refundable tax credit, and that's one way we can deliver relief to them. But because the other side insisted that this be revenue neutral, that meant that everyone who does not have a large amount of personal property, in essence, probably pays a higher rate, additional tax, so the state of Michigan can write these tax credits to some of those businesses that don't have any tax liability whatsoever. So because of that, that's one of the places where you get this inequity among various sectors of the economy.
I'm glad you brought that up because you're absolutely right. What we saw happen was, instead of revenue neutrality, I guess the old SBT brought in approximately $1.7 million. But when you just even look at the surcharge alone, the 22%, actually businesses are now paying at least in total $700 million more than under the old SBT. And then, interestingly enough, these new increases in taxes, the personal income tax, the MBT, plus the surcharge, that's the largest increase in taxes in a generation.
Right.
So under this administration, what we've seen largely is a continuation of the old way of doing business, which is tax, 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 in order to spend, spend, spend. Now, what are we spending our money on? Well, this is where you and I kind of came full force. We started looking at what was going on and some bills that were coming before us. And one of the first highlights really was something called a refundable credit, which you and I know means that after all your tax liability is wiped out, eliminated, because of the credits that you can access, you are eligible for a check, subsidized check. And where are these subsidized checks going? Well, let's start with the latest initiative, which are to entice the film industry from Hollywood to come to Michigan. And before we really focus in on that, let me say this. I think both of us are in agreement. We're not against credits or incentives.
No.
We have to have some tools to compete with other states. And yet, we're going above and beyond just wiping out tax liability for certain favored special interests, picking winners and losers, going beyond to absolutely writing them a check. And I think that's where we're beginning to see we have to draw the line, because at least this year it could be anywhere upwards of $150 million going directly out of the general fund. We see it leaking. We wonder why the dollars aren't there.
Right.
Now we really have been able to pinpoint what's happening. And it's not just film credits, which we're going to talk about. It's also the Michigan Economic Development Corporation's ability to grant credits, refundable credits, to certain businesses, over which right now the state, the legislature more appropriately, doesn't have any oversight.
Right.
In fact, it's kind of a slippery slope with possibly the legislature abandoning its fiduciary responsibility, its taxing responsibility, and giving it over to boards, etc., that have no oversight. And I don't think the legislature realized just how much they're giving away their power. But let's focus on the film credits, what happened there. And we're not against the credits. Again, we want this industry to do well. Let's focus there.
Well, you had the foresight to vote no on the film credits from the beginning. I missed it. I sat on the committee, and I remember bringing up, saying in a general statement that, you know, these are going to pay for themselves. That was absolutely not the case. Nobody contradicted me. When you look at the film credits, essentially, if a film spends $100, they're going to get $40 back from the state of Michigan. And of course, films are going to be interested in coming here to the state of Michigan. I made a comment in the committee that if we did have the resources to pay for 40% of a production of a car, we'd have every auto plant in the United States back here in Michigan. The fact of the matter is that that's a very expensive proposition for, I think, an industry that comes in and does for a period of time, and certainly that gives it a boost to the economy. And then they leave. I mean, there's not as yet the infrastructure to have a kind of a permanent industry. Our friend Governor Engler said not too long ago, we're not creating a film industry in Michigan, we're renting it. And I think that kind of puts it all in proper perspective.
And then the Senate Fiscal Agency, which of course is nonpartisan and must be objective, and they are responsible for giving us advance notice of how much revenue is coming in, therefore we can set targets for our budget.
Right.
And all the departments and commitments we have to the people of this state. They have said we can't keep going at this rate. This year alone, even after you separate out the revenues from sales taxes and the like that would be coming in, it would still deplete the general fund of the state of Michigan, $122 million. And without any caps, without any limits, that's headed to $200, $300 million in the near future. And I just want to point out this graph that came from the Senate Fiscal Agency's discussion with the Senate Finance Committee. It's almost unbelievable that this administration under Jennifer Granholm, Governor Jennifer Granholm, allowed this year one industry alone, to amass up to $150 million worth of credits. That's as much as the increase to K-12 education, kids in school, and Medicaid. Now look way down here at where higher education is. Almost nothing, comparatively speaking. So the question becomes, is this fair? Is this balanced? Right. We have kids who want to go to Michigan universities. Their parents are struggling, and tuition costs are going up, and we can't do anything to ameliorate that. We can't do anything to ameliorate the inequities in the Michigan business tax unless we get a grip on this.
The $150 million would more than pay for your Senate Bill 1038, which we really don't think we have to pay for because we never believe that they modeled the whole thing on taxes and bad debts and all of that. But, you know, another thing, you know, that's a good chunk of the surcharge gone away. And when you think of the people paying the Michigan business tax who these bills would help the most are the people who've made a commitment to Michigan, who have been here through thick and thin. And, you know, once again, they're paying extra to subsidize these film credits and the other credits that you mentioned, all relatively, you know, new businesses.
Absolutely, and we can't forget the home team and the desire to attract all measure, if you will, of utopia out there to try and bring in businesses of all sorts. And that brings us even to the mega Michigan Economic Growth Authority credits. They've been engaged in giveaways as well. We don't think it would be at all appropriate to disarm completely. Maybe we should, though, limit the film credits to a certain amount. And we're working with the other side of the aisle on trying to reach some kind of a consensus on that, a cap, if you will, a limit. Also with the mega credits, the same kind of thing. Maybe limit companies that would come in and get a refundable credit to the top five a year, for example, and really bring forth at least 500 jobs. That is a debatable way to go, but it certainly would allow us to be more responsible in terms of the spending and the outlay, especially in these very hard, difficult economic times.
And